Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Thank you. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yasodhanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodhanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodhanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodhanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Girari Radha Girari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravijayakacharya Sotara Sata Shishima Resi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Did I say Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki? Did I? Let's do it again. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhatale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Sunyali Paschatya Desatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 26. King Brunjan goes to the forest. He's now returned. His queen is angry. Text number 17. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Niravastare Shayanam Pasya Satruhan Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Niravastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Go ahead. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivastiti Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Yadvyasvati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Satruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Rama Uchu Naranatha Janimas Tvatpriyayad Vivasyati Bhutale Nirvastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. Who wrote the verse on the board? Thank you very much. Rama Uchu. The women thus spoke. Naranatha, O king, Najanima, we do not know. Tvatpriya, your beloved. Yet Vivasyati, why she is taken to this sort of life. Bhutale, on the ground. Nirvastare, without bedding. Shayanam, lying down. Pasya, look. Shatrahan, O killer of enemies. Translation. All the women address the king. O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken on this sort of existence. O killer of enemies, kindly look. She's lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she's acting this way. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. When a person is devoid of devotional service or Vishnu Bhakti, he takes to many sinful activities. King Puranjana left home, neglected his own wife, and engaged himself in killing animals. This is the position of all materialistic men. They do not care for a married, chaste wife. They take the wife only as an instrument for sense enjoyment, not as a means for devotional service. To have unrestricted sex life, the karmis work very hard. They've concluded that the best course is to have sex with any woman and simply pay the price for her, as though she were a mercantile commodity. Thus they engage their energy in working very hard for such material acquisitions. Such materialistic people have lost their good intelligence. They must search out their intelligence within the heart. A person who does not have a chaste wife, accepted by religious principles, always has a bewildered intelligence. The wife of King Puranjan was lying on the ground because she was neglected by her husband. Actually, the woman must always be protected by her husband. We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayan. We were saying that just the other day, right? We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayan. In other words, the wife must remain embraced by her husband. Thus she becomes beloved and well protected. Just as one saves his money and places it under his own personal protection, one should similarly protect his wife by his own personal supervision. Just as intelligence is always within the heart, so a beloved chaste wife should always have her place on the chest of a good husband. This is the proper relationship between husband and wife. A wife is therefore called ardhangani, or half the body. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, or only one side of the body. You must have two sides. Similarly, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together. In the lower species of life, among birds and animals, it's seen that by nature's arrangement, the husband and wife live together. It's similarly ideal in human life for the husband and wife to live together. The home should be a place for devotional service, and the wife should be chaste and accepted by a ritualistic ceremony. In this way, one can become happy at home. If we could chant our prayers together, please. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shirta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagijatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jigatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Tat Sat. Let's start off with, I do want to make an announcement for the Prabhus online. I've got ISKCON SanDiego live. So if you do have a question, and if you type it in soon enough before class ends, then we can try and satisfy your question or share a comment that you might have on the purport, verse, etc. Let's start off with some moral instructions. The first paragraph of the purport doesn't really paint a very pretty picture about the mentality of men in modern materialistic culture. Basically, they're just a bunch of wild dogs wanting to attack for their sensual pleasure any woman they can. Chanakya Pandit says that a learned man, one who's actually cultured, he'll view all women except his wife as a mother. Boy, would that change the landscape. Now, there are some cultures that are so deeply embedded in ignorance that it has to be said in the scriptures, don't have sex with your mother. But basically civilized men understand that's not something you want to do. And there were different conversations with Srila Prabhupada where he brought up this verse by Chanakya Pandit. You want to chant the, give him a microphone. Do you know the Sanskrit? Matra. You know it, Vijay? Hand it to him. Ramapadi? He's cultured. Translation?
One sees Matrivat Sarvadaresu, seeing every woman as mother. Paradabhyasuloshtravat, seeing other property belonging as something insignificant. Atmavat Sarvabhutesu, seeing others as oneself. One who sees this way, he's a Pandita, learn it.
Thank you. Sometimes we've got to polish that little jewel so people can appreciate what lies covered here. So, conversations with Srila Prabhupada, and Harikesh said, well, what if we don't know how to treat properly the women as our mother? We don't know how to properly reciprocate with our mothers. And, if you don't have a good mother, I guess it's kind of hard. If you don't have role models, it's understandable. I mean, it's becoming so deplorable that people are up in arms that, what, I can't kill the child in my womb? It's my body, my right. What a degraded state of civilization. Where are the motherly qualities? It's not about sense gratification. It's actually about love. Can I quote one purport of Srila Prabhupada? Actually, he was talking in Mauritius. He said, Vedic society is based on the principle of love between husband and wife, father and son, king and the citizens, and so on. Civilization must be founded on love, not law. By law, you cannot make a person love you. First, he must love you, then he will gladly follow your law. Modern civilization lacks this basis of love, so everything is superficial and false. Now, Srila Prabhupada qualifies and defines what he means by love, because there's so many there's so many definitions to this concept of love. So he said, but if devotion to Krishna is made the basic principle, then people will be happy. And that's the last line of the purport. In this way, one can become happy at home. Srila Prabhupada wants to see us happy. But we don't have a clue how to be happy unless we've heard from the scriptures, from the saintly persons and the spiritual masters. We don't have a clue. We're just like animals. In many ways, worse than animals. Srila Prabhupada says it's nature's arrangement that many animals, birds, etc., will mate for life. They live together. The crows, not our favorite bird, but they mate for life. They have that over the greatest majority of men, at least in the who knows what percentage of their life. We were talking about brahmacharis yesterday and the concept of playboys. Don't be a brahmachari. Pick one of the ashrams according to your desire, your nature, and surrender to the rules and regulations governing that ashram. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. It's only 4. It's not 5, 6. If you're going outside the 4, then you're falling into the materialistic category, uncivilized people, behavior. So, the man who made the name Playboy famous, Hugh Hefner, he played it to the hilt, to the best he could. Yes, this is the life to enjoy with many beautiful young women. Of course, it has to be young women. And finally, when they get to the fag end of life, even though we heard that verse from the quotations from Nagaraj compiling them in BTG, there was one of them that said, what's the use of lust when youth is gone? There's not a lot you can do if you're simply flowing with the restrictions of the body as it ages. But of course, they got solutions for that. They got all kinds of solutions which we won't go into because it's just stupidity. It's animal life. Yeah, it's not to be discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, but when they get really old, what happens? Then he gets married. And then the joke is one famous woman, a star, a movie star, famous in that way. She married some billionaire, and she was a young woman. And they asked her, well, what were you thinking when you married your 86-year-old husband? And the joke is, she said, 86? I thought he was 96. In other words, love had nothing to do with the marriage. It was all about exploitation, and what we generally conceive of as love is nothing but exploitation. If you don't scratch my back just right, in the right spot, then I'm going to find somebody else who will. And I was making the point, might as well finish, about getting married at old. Basically, men and women, on the whole, they want to shore up and get together and have a relationship. A lot of these verses talk about the benefit of Varnashram, Daivi Varnashram Dharma, and how you progress through the stages of life so that you can become free from all your sinful reactions, pious reactions, become liberated in devotional service to the Lord. Happy in this life, going to eternal happiness and service to the Lord in His abode. That's the goal. And the reason why we see that in this material world is because you and I are parts and parcels of Krishna, eternal spirit souls, Mamaivamsa, Jivaloka, Jivabhute, Sanatana. And because we are His part and parcel, as I learned growing up, made in His image, then we have this desire to have a woman at our side. Because Krishna always has his woman at his side. Narayan always has his woman at his side. Everyone from Brahma down to the insects, they all want their mates. Sex life is a big thing in the material world. That's the concept of love. That's the concept of happiness in this world. But the problem is, we aren't Krishna, we're not Narayan. He is the Purusha. That's the philosophy or the tattva of the matter, the fact of the matter. He's the only controller and enjoyer. And He made us not for imitating Him, but for supplementing His enjoyment, for supporting His enjoyment, for serving Him. We are understood to be His subordinate, eternally subordinate energy, and we are described as Prakriti, that which is to be enjoyed. So when Prakriti in this world, the spirit, pure spirit soul, takes on the body, whatever it may be, due to their past desires and the modes in nature, etc., when they take it on, then they bring that perverted desire to imitate Krishna into their life, and then they, I got to have a woman. But in today's degraded society, because there's very little and, losing ground fast, understanding of, what to speak of understanding, but worship of God. dedication of one's life to God, because that is so minimum. It's on the wane in Kali Yuga. Because of that, then in the early age, like I said, as Srila Prabhupada says, they don't want to get married, tied down, the phrase is, when I can go and buy milk in the market, why would I buy a cow? All the responsibility and the burden of taking care of a cow. It's so much easier, just pay and play. What they don't realize is that by those degraded, exploitive activities, they're setting themselves up for suffering life after life. And you wonder why you can't find that person who loves you, who doesn't appreciate you for who you are. It's because in your past lives you've exploited and hurt so many other living entities in this relationship we call love, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. Then you don't deserve to have a peaceful, prosperous, satisfying home life. It's becoming rarer and rarer to find people who can settle down. Now, when we were growing up, some of us in the elderly bleachers, we saw our parents for the most part. Vijay goes, "Why are you looking at me?" Parents stuck it out, even if they weren't happy, because there was a sense of duty and there was the peer pressure. My God, what will my church members think if I was to divorce? It was considered scandalous. It was a real dropping of the ball of the responsibility of a man, of a woman, of a father, a mother. Now it's like, these people who have something of significance and wealth and assets, they don't get married unless they get a prenuptial agreement. How's that for entering into "I love you" for, in happiness and distress, health and disease, for the rest of eternity? But just in case, you're not going to take all my money. So this is what people have in terms of the modern civilization. It is very sad. And Srila Prabhupada says they should search out their intelligence within the heart. But the point of it is, if you are an animalistic, untrained, born in ignorance, steeped in ignorance and sin type of human being, then what will your heart tell you to do? Manastastani indriyani prakritistani karshati. It's just going to tell you, go and exploit others and then suffer the results. So when the intelligence within the heart originally is clean, it's pure, it knows what to do and what not to do. But because it's so dirty at this point, we have to hear from the scriptures, from the self-realized servants of the Lord, from the spiritual masters. And that's the main duty of a householder. If you want to become happy in household life, Narada Muni tells Yudhisthira Maharaj, again, and again, hear the glorifications of the Lord in His wonderful activities, etc., from the saintly people. Prabhupada said 50 years ago, so now we'll say 100 years ago, everybody in all the villages throughout India, when they were done with their work of the day, they would go to a temple, or they would go to a Brahmin's house, or they would congregate, and they would hear the glories of Lord Ram from Ramayana, or Krishna from Mahabharata, from Srimad Bhagavatam, or one of the Puranas. And life was good. Life was simple. The mind does not become happy when it dwells on how can I enjoy my senses and my desires. Only by gravity, by simplicity, by sense control can the mind become peaceful. And there's no question of true happiness unless there's equanimity and peace of mind. And thieves and rogues will never be peaceful. They'll never be happy. They're pushed on endlessly by the mind. Well, do it this way, do it that way. No, try this, try that. Until the end of life, they try to satisfy their desires. And it's impossible. The game is stacked against us. That's the way the universe is made. We cannot be happy outside of service to the Lord. And if one is not pious enough, fortunate enough to have association where one can understand I should be engaged in service to the Lord, then at least engage in service to others. Anyone, anything, any way in which you're extending yourself, sacrificing and trying to please someone else, to that degree you will be happy. It's a start. And marriage is a big point. Even if you're on the lowest of the rung of the orders of life, you're, as the scriptures say, you are unintelligent or not possessing lots of abilities to be independent and provide for yourself and your family, thus you work for others, which is, the greatest majority of all of us. We work for others or worked for others. And that's called a worker, a Shudra. Well, the only religious procedure, purificatory rite, prescribed for the workers is get married and stick to the duties of marriage. If you will try and support and protect your wife, you will benefit for it. Now, when we talk about engaging in marriage, the ultimate end of our goal of entering into marriage, or for that matter, any ashrama life, all duties, the verse was quoted, that unless one is developing the desire to glorify the Lord, hear the Lord's glories, all one's activities are useless. Srama evi kevalam. All activities. How's it go? Loudly, because you don't have the mic. Wait! You got it. Once again, our jewel-like Brahmin. Please.
Dharmasvanushtita pumsa visvakshana kathasuya natpadaya jadirati srama evihi kevalam.
The purpose of all these rites, rituals, and duties is to develop a desire to understand and serve the Lord. Thank you, Ramapati. That's the whole point. Then you can truly be happy in this life and in the next. And in this second part of the purport, there's 2 paragraphs. In the second, it explains, the gist of householder life. Now, it sounds kind of attractive. Wow, I always have a broad, a lady on your in tow. Sounds very flattering to and life is so degraded in this bodily concept of life. They go to the red carpet events and this and that, and they're very proud of their woman. They showcase their woman, and women have become so degraded, being unprotected, that they'll dress or undress in any provocative way just to get attention, like everyone, worships me. No, they lust after your body, but you just take it to the next step. They're just salivating over a piece of meat. They just want to exploit. And it's the mentality of the Purusha, whether you're in the male body or the female body. I got my beautiful woman in hand, my trophy wife. And the wife is thinking, yeah, right. He's wrapped around my little finger. And if he does act unfaithfully in this marriage because he didn't get a prenuptial agreement from me, I'll take him for everything he's worth. I mean, what's love got to do with it? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? This is the state of affairs. But Krishna consciousness is diametrically opposed to this exploitive ignorance. And a man, when he takes the vows, he's supposed to stick. Now, till death do we part. That's the Western Malecha. Actually, not the civilization is let's be kind, a notch or 2 below the Vedic culture. Vedic culture, it's that you can stay with your wife ideally for 25 years. And then because life is short, you're meant to see, okay, what's my next move? How do I grow in spiritual life and my relationship with God so that I can end up spending eternity with Him? Well, that's where vanaprastha comes in. Then you increase your hearing and chanting. Then you increase your austerities or control of the senses. Sex life is finished. It's allowed in one ashram and one ashram only. And sometimes the brahmacharis or others will see this in a negative light. But the balance of it is the grahastas that produce all the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. That's a direct quote from Prabhupada. Or they support all the other. They're the only guys putting the harness on and working like a dog, and with their hard-earned money, they're supposed to be taking care of the other 3 ashrams. Not just their family. In Krishna consciousness, we see the family not as ours. We have our responsibility to protect them, to provide for them, to nurture them in the higher values of life so that they can have a productive, peaceful life, maintaining themselves, etc., and becoming spiritually awakened, becoming a God-realized person, a servant of God. These are responsibilities we can claim, but we can't claim the wife, the home, the children, the money, the assets. You just keep on going. The political party, the country, boiling down to the root of it, my body and mind. We can't claim them as ours. They're Krishna's. They're Krishna's energy, and He's temporarily put us in a combination of those identities, those labels, and you get to, quote unquote, either enjoy it or selfishly, which means suffer through it, or you get to dovetail it, offer it all to the Lord, back to the Lord for His pleasure. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, whatever I possess, my body, house, servants, brothers, friends, wife, children, and household paraphernalia, all belong to you now. Speaking to the Lord. I'm your servant. I simply live in your house. You're the owner of my household, and I'm just your servant. From now on, all my endeavors will be directed toward giving you happiness. All my friends, my wife, my sons and daughters are your servants and maidservants. According to this understanding, I maintain my relationship with them, because my wealth, followers, wife, and household articles all belong to you. I, as your servant, simply maintain them. I earn money so that it can be used in your service. I spend it to maintain your household. So you can see with that mentality how freeing it is. How one can actually be happy. When you give everything to Krishna, you recognize it is His, and I'm acknowledging that. I will live according to that understanding. Then He takes care of the bills. He takes care of the health. He takes care of the marriage of the daughter and etc. We're simply His instrument. Let the sages, the pure devotees, the spiritual masters in Scripture tell me how to do it, and I'll do it. And the Lord works through such a surrendered devotee. And life is good. Life can be happy. But any way you tinker with the formula, to any degree you aspire or measure less than what is asked of us, to that degree life is not peaceful. I don't have to elaborate at all on that regards. My God. Prabhupada, I was reading one purport where he says, please, just follow this process of Krishna consciousness. Let's get out of this miserable universe. Not just thinking California, man, it's getting weird here. You know, let me move to another state. No, we don't. The pure devotees, they don't think small. Let me get out of this universe and not enter into any other universe, and let me go back home, back to Godhead. That's only possible when you follow the duties of your ashram. For the householders, it means take care of your wife. You personally take care of her. You don't delegate it. You don't neglect her. You know, it's stated that Lakshmi is on the chest of her husband. You know how she got that position? Because she knew of the glorious, intimate service that Srimati Radharani and the gopis offered to her husband in his form as Krishna. And she wanted to offer the same kind of service. Because in Vaikuntha, where Narayan lives, for family and friends not conversant with the canon of philosophy, so many spiritual kingdoms or planets in the spiritual realm. And you saw my video on Facebook of Balaji, and all diamonds, all rubies and emeralds, and a little bit of gold and nothing else. One day a year they bring out this darshan. Oh my gosh. Opulence you don't see on the, Queen of England might bring out a little tiara and a necklace or this or that. That's nothing compared to the opulence of God. So in Vaikuntha planets, he manifests that opulence, and because of everyone knowing he is God, the awe and the reverence really dampens the devotional mood of intimacy. It makes it practically impossible. And so she gets to massage his feet, she gets to cook for him, she gets to do menial chores like that, but she never gets embraced by Narayan. She never gets to dance or sing with Narayan. These are blessings that Krishna bestows only on his most intimate, surrendered, fully surrendered, loving devotees like those in Vrindavan. And she wanted that service, that ecstatic service. And she underwent penances for thousands, I think 10,000 years or something like that. And he was pleased, and what can I do for you, my dear Lakshmaji? He said, well, I'd like to be able to enjoy the dance with you like the gopis. Sorry, that's impossible. You can't do it. But I underwent so much austerities. I really want to. I want to please you. He said, your consciousness isn't proper. What we're being offered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the beginning, we're worshiping Radha Giridhari. It's supposed to be on the level of reverence as that of Lakshmi Narayan. But side by side with our regulated, respectful, dutiful service, we're hearing about Radha and Krishna and the inhabitants of Vrindavan. We're singing their glories every day. Brajajana Ranjana, he's the pleaser. He totally satisfies. He's the Lord of his family and friends in Braj. And she's eternally in the mood of the consort of Narayan. She doesn't have the adhikar or qualification. She said, well then, can I always remain upon your chest? Tatastu. And thus in Balaji you'll see Lakshmi on his chest. And I think Saraswati is also there on the other side of his chest. One of his eternal consorts, another consort. But anyway, the perverted reflection of it is, proper application is, take care of your woman. Don't neglect her. Whatever in the house, she runs the palace. A man's home is his palace. That's not Vedic culture. Draupadi, she ran the palace. That's her domain. But outside, then the man gets to act like the big cheese that he wants to present himself as, or do the duties of providing, the responsibilities of a citizen, of, bringing home the rice and dal, etc. And if you try to cheat and think, I can just under my thumb kind of mentality with a woman, it's not going to work. It won't go the distance. Krishna shows what the proper mood of reciprocation is with his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani, and her maidservants. And that is, she actually is the one he's trying to please. When she ends up in the mood of the queen, King Puranjan's queen, he'll do anything to remove that anger she has with him. That disapproval, that, how could you? He'll do anything. As Jayadev Goswami was writing, he takes the dust from her feet. And then he thought, oh, how can I say that? Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he subordinates himself to... No. But Krishna came back personally and rewrote it. That's the glories of the Lord and his eternal consort that Lord Chaitanya is sharing with us. He personally came to taste that mood. Radharani's selfless service, the highest pinnacle of loving devotion to Krishna, to himself. He came to taste it and share it with others. So these duties that we're given in whatever ashram we find ourselves in, we have to follow them if we're serious about becoming purified. And the big picture is, hey, we're going to hear Pranjan grows old and he dies. We're all going to grow old and die. And so at every ashram you should take seriously the goal of life, the responsibility of human form, self-realization, God-realization, because you don't even know if you'll make it out of the brahmachari ashram or the grihastha ashram. Shamali, Mataji, she didn't. She went back to Godhead in her 30s, mid-ish 30s. So young, we don't know. When it's our time, it's our time. And then it's completely out of our hands where our next destination is. Up until that point, we have full independence to express our desires and act upon them. What do we want to become? Which influences and manifests where we go. So Krishna consciousness is the perfect process. For householders, one has to worship the Lord at home. One should worship deities. Even when Lord Chaitanya was the most arrogant scholar, and that's always the focus and glorification of him in his younger married life. After his studies or after teaching, depending on what age you discuss, he always took bath in the Ganga, which is an aspect of Padasevana, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. He knew the exalted position of Mother Ganga as a servant of the Lord, emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord. He went home and he worshipped Tulsi Devi and he worshipped the deity in their home at Oksaja Vishnu. He's right there at the Yog Pit. You can have his darshan. Even when he was most arrogant and so distracted with life, I'm too busy, can't. No, he was always performing his devotional activities. The Lord was the center of the house. What to speak of when he became initiated and then gave his life fully to the devotional activities. And, so the point is, one should worship the Lord in the home, and one should constantly hear from the devotees of the Lord, the spiritual masters, from the scripture. And Srila Prabhupada has this one purport where he says, if you really want to get the favor of the Lord, as a household or anyone else, he says deity worship is especially meant for purifying the neophyte devotees. Actually, however, preaching is more important. In Bhagavad Gita 1869 it said, Nacha tasman manusheshu kashtin me priya kritamaha. If one wants to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must preach the glories of the Lord. One who worships the deities must therefore be extremely respectful to preachers. Otherwise, simply worshiping the deity will keep one in the lower stage of devotion. And when Lord Chaitanya renounced his beautiful mother and wife and took to sannyas for the deliverance of the conditioned souls, went on tour in South India, giving everyone Krishna consciousness that he met, he told the Kurma Brahmin, see if I pulled it up here, he told him, the devotee, the Brahmin, was so attracted to Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to just run away from everything, all the duties of life, and just follow the Lord, chant and dance, take prasadam with him, hear him glorify the Lord. But the Lord told him, no, you stay home. Follow these duties of a Brahmin householder, and, most importantly, instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they're given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. And if you do this, then you will always have my company, or sometimes translated, very soon I will come back and be with you. Let's see if we had any reciprocation online. Are there any questions or comments? We got a Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Bol, and that looks about like it. Hare Krishna and Hare Bol to you, Prabhus. Anybody have any questions or comments? Any feminine perspective? Nice one, huh? You want to say that with the mic?
Where's the verse and purport that you just quoted from in the 7th canto about being extremely respectful to preachers?
Yeah. Our Pujari / preacher Balaram Prabhu asks, it is from the 7th canto, the Ideal Family Life, Instructions from Narada Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj. It is chapter 14, text number 40. Some good stuff. I highly recommend it. If you don't have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home, message me. We'll try and do something about it. Anything else? Okay.
You were talking about role models. Where are the role models and where is the love? You know, they were talking about mothers, right? And so I started thinking about myself growing up.
Speak a little louder or into the mic.
So I was thinking about myself, like that. So should I repeat the comment or
start over if you don't mind? Sorry to disturb you.
You were talking about where are the role models and where is the love. You were saying about the mothers that sometimes don't give an example. So I started thinking about myself, like when I was growing up, I didn't have that, especially in the culture, my culture. It's like when you talk about exploitation, that's what they teach us. They teach us that. They teach us, I was told that, you don't know any better, so it's due to ignorance, So, and then when I got pregnant with Karuna, it's just all these bad influences telling you, about, you were talking about not abortion and things like that, but I think that, that's the mercy of Krishna that, he even though I was so much in the mode of ignorance and I didn't have good role models, Krishna guided me not to do such a thing, so, and for that I'm just really grateful. So I just wanted to share that. So.
Yeah, you're very fortunate, and we're happy to have your company. Sometimes when I see you enthusiastically dance in Kirtan, I'm reminded of the Vrajvasis, because they will engage in so many wonderful activities. And as I said, there's no exploitive lust in Vraj. It's total absorption in Krishna and pleasing Krishna. And, they'll have ecstatic programs. The parties go, you want to talk about parties, they go wild. They're throwing the butter and they're throwing the yogurt and they're just, letting it all out in exuberance and joy for glorifying some festival that, of course, has Krishna as the center. And the same way in Dwarka, it's a little more respectful. They know Krishna's God, but they still have more intimacy than the lower realm of bhakti found in Vraj. And, the syringe, the water fights, this and that, it all goes on. But because there isn't lust, there's love. There's absorption in Krishna, service to Krishna. Then none of them are agitated. And it does make mention in one pastime, and those after some time who were a little afflicted with lust, then they had to leave because they didn't qualify. They had that good sense anyway. So Prabhupada, did I finish the statement? Looking at women as your mother, what if we don't know how to? He said, well, at least don't ask them for sex. That's a beginning. don't try to exploit the weaker sex. And that may not sound or sit well with some, but that's our understanding. They're exalted and meant to be protected. They provide such a, without the nurturing of the mother when we're children, then you turn out unwanted, uncivilized animals. What do they call that? Varna Sankara. So on that note, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Hare Krishna Aja Prabhu.